This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.
A woman charged alongside former Major League Baseball pitcher Danny Joseph Serafini is in the fatal shooting of his in-laws, has pled guilty now to an accessory charge. According to Placer County authorities, a 34-year-old named Samantha Maria Scott admitted on February 6th to acting as an accessory after the fact in connection with the shooting of 70-year-old Robert Gray Spohr and the attempted murder of his wife, 68-year-old Wendy Louise Wood, in June of 2021. Scott was briefly in custody following her arrest alongside Serafini, who was 51, but was released after entering her plea. Serafini, whose MLB career included stints with several teams, is scheduled for a jury trial on March 17th. Spohr, the father of Serafini's wife, Erin Spohr, died from a single gunshot wound at his Lake Tahoe area home. Wood was also shot but survived her injuries and died by suicide 1 year later. Authorities initially released surveillance footage from the day of the shooting showing a hooded male wearing a face covering and a backpack walking near the Spohr residence hours before the homicide. Investigators eventually identified Serafini and Scott as suspects. Scott was reportedly a close friend of Erin Spohr's and had worked as the family's nanny. Serafini's post-baseball life came under scrutiny after he and his wife appeared on the reality show Bar Rescue, which I know you watched the episode, Carol.
I sure did.
Detailing the financial struggles that followed his MLB career and his earnings. In the 2015 episode, the couple revealed significant debt and discussed the burden it placed on their personal lives. The bar, known as the Bullpen at Aspen Glen, before its makeover into Oak Tavern, ultimately closed. A wrongful death lawsuit filed in June of 23 by Adrian Spohr and another daughter of Robert Spohr, and Wendy Wood, alleges that Serafini Scott and her sister Erin are liable for the senseless murder of her father and her mother's eventual death. In a countersuit, Erin Spohr claims Adrian manipulated their mother into disinheriting her. Serafini's trial is scheduled for March. Scott could face up to 3 years in prison for her accessory plea and will return to court at a later date, according to the Placer County District Attorney's Office. It's
interesting. I have gone down a big old rabbit hole with this one because a couple of things. He did pitch for a hot minute for my Chicago Cubs. I think like one season and very few starts. But I watched that episode on Bar Rescue and I kind of liked him, like he was in over his head, as like many bar owners are. But they had talked about how he had blown through a lot of that baseball money.
Yeah.
And so I think by the time Bar Rescue came in, he was in significant debt, including to his own parents. Like, I think they'd put their house on the line and put that money into this bar. And so they're trying to save the bar so he can pay back his parents and this. So I'm trying, like, my rabbit hole I went down was why? Why would he kill his in-laws? And I can't find that anywhere. So all I can do is speculate, but it makes me think, since the bar never did survive and ended up closing, his significant debt never changed. And that's why they always call in Bar Rescue, because they're in over their heads.
Yeah.
That's the whole premise of the show.
Well, I mean, you watch the show and it's that or Kitchen Nightmares. I like Kitchen Nightmares too, where it's like, you can go in and a sensible person can like, here's how you should be doing this, but then they leave and,
they think they know better.
You can't retrain somebody in a couple days and expect them to be a totally different human being and not fall into the same horrible decision-making pattern that they've done their whole life.
And he had no food and beverage experience.
So why not open a bar?
You can just own a bar and manage it yourself. There's a lot that goes into bars and restaurants, and you need to be experienced in that to successfully run one.
Yeah.
This doesn't I can't go into, being an airline pilot because I've flown in one.
Well, you might be able to these days. I don't know. They kind of need more air traffic control.
You
There's
just have to wonder because so the woman, the accessory, was their nanny. I haven't seen anywhere where there was a romantic relationship with them. She was friends with the wife. Is this murder because this is speculation, complete speculation on my part, but is the murder because they needed money? Were they trying to get an inheritance or life insurance or whatever they might get from their parents? One of those deals, if they're out of the picture, we're going to get money and all our problems will be solved.
wouldn't be the first time somebody's killed somebody
Exactly.
for inheritance.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
seems to me the sister of the wife, she is kind of, I think, thinking the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, and imagine what she's gone through. Her father was murdered and her mom was shot. Then her mom ends up taking her own life for whatever reason. She might have had debilitating injuries from that. She
Yeah.
lost her husband in a very horrific manner and she could never overcome it.
Yeah.
It's very sad. It's so sad. So I'm really curious. Like, she pled guilty. So I'm going to guess she's going to be testifying in his trial.
Yeah. She pled guilty to
think-
a very low sentence as well. I
Yeah.
mean, and so I'm guessing there is some sort of deal there that's going to be presented.
And that trial, I think, starts in March, like March the 7th. I think that would be very interesting.
It will be. We'll watch that.
And if he did it, if that's him, he needs to spend the rest of his life in prison. And if it's not him, I think they must have a lot of information. I
Yeah.
think there's a whole lot of stuff they know and reasons why, because they didn't arrest him right away after these murders or the murder, the shootings.
Yeah.
He was still out. They put together a case and they are holding their cards close. Because
gonna be-
I can't find anywhere like what they have on him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot there. A lot of people involved in this one too. It's like reading through it was like who's who and trying to keep it all straight. But yeah, that's going to be very fascinating to watch and to see where
Why do you
the
get the nanny involved?
It's like a game of
he
Clue.
was also charged with child endangerment.
Yeah.
So I don't know did he leave the kids alone while he went over to do this shooting? I don't know. There's just a whole lot of stuff that's unknown, but they must have a pretty good case against him.
I would imagine so.
The world of true crime never stops, and neither do we. Press subscribe now to get daily updates, in-depth analysis, and expert opinions from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.